Welcome to the Collab Podcast. My name is Michelle.
And my name is Devin.
On this podcast, we explore concepts of self-mastery and community collaboration
through in-depth panel discussions and intimate interviews with dance's most prominent figures.
Yeah, she my peanut butter jelly snack, pull it ride, but she painting. That's my sunshine when it's raining. That's my boo, yeah. When I'm all alone, she pulled through.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Collab Podcast. I'm back today with my co-host, Michelle, and our guest today is a multifaceted artist who we followed and admired for quite some time. From dancer to choreographer to director to producer, Mitch Villareal's remarkable career embodies innovation and focus. Mitch's dance career began with San Marcos All Male in 2006. During his 4 years with San Marcos All Male, Mitch also danced for Flipside and eventually joined Studio 429's reputable team Breakthrough. By 2011, Mitch had moved on to dance with New Gen/Neograde and 220. Between 2013 and 2015, he worked on various projects, landing a role as director for Lost and Found, as well as becoming coach and choreographer for Modern Day All Male.
Overlapping his time as coach and choreographer for Modern Day All Male, Mitch's creative vision inspired the origin of Outer Class, a movement and dance company he founded in 2018. When asked about his career highlights, Mitch made sure to give credit where credit is due and noted some of his mentors that helped navigate him through his successful career as a dancer. Mentors such as Eric Saradpan, Philip Janiza, Emmett Agapai, Tracy Seiler, and Sean Evaristo are notables in the dance community who helped influence Mitch into the artist he is today. When not dancing, Mitch finds himself dabbling in art, acting, film, screenwriting, music production, fashion, technology, science, and philosophy. Mitch's dynamic yet genuine personality is the perfect balance to inspire aspiring artists in our community. Please welcome our very talented guest today, Mitch Villareal.
Yay, welcome, Mitch.
Wow, that intro is immaculate. You guys did so well with that. It's crazy. You guys are making me sound way cooler than I am. Appreciate that.
Oh, you are definitely as cool, if not cooler, than the intro we put together. And we're so excited to have the opportunity to share some of that amazingness with all of our audience today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to catch up. It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you've had an incredible career. So, we connected in the early days when you were just sort of starting your career. And so there's a lot of stuff that has happened since we first got to know you. And so I want to dive into, what you've been doing since that time. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the beginning of your career. I'm interested to hear about the origins of San Marcos All Male, and then how it sort of propelled into everything that you're doing now. I mean, I feel like we didn't give you enough credit in your introduction, but you really are very remarkable in everything that you're doing. I mean, you're very hardworking. You've got quite the career. So I really want to dive in and know all the details, all the juicy details.
Oh my goodness. Are you sure about that? We might be here a while. No, I'm just kidding. I'll make it brief. I started in high school as a freshman. And I remember before even considering dance, I was, this shy, like back of the class kid growing up, super reserved. And I remember I was trying to find a club to join when I went into high school. I was like, I don't know what to do. And I was going through like the electives and things like that. And I remember picking tennis. Like I was so enthused with tennis. And then, moving forward, I told my brother, who was already in high school, he was already dancing. For those of you who don't know, my brother is a former member of Choreo Cookies. And he was on the all-male team at the time. And he was like, no, man, just join dance. Like, all my friends. And, I think that being kind of a safe sanctuary for someone like me it seemed like the better option. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I'll try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And sure enough, I found that I loved it, and it just kind of snowballed after that, and started to, train, and I think the genuine care and compassion for it was just what kept me going. It's kind of like, you don't realize the journey and how long it's been, because you're just so focused on, improving, and you're focused on growing, you're focused on learning. And I think, throughout that time, joining teams and starting my own projects, I think that's essentially just what fueled my curiosity. And started to teach more and teach, my own coaching program called First Floor. And it's just a whole journey. And I feel like it's an endless journey of just exploration and learning. So that's where we are right now.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. I loved that you mentioned how initially, when you were looking at what you were going to do, you wanted to do tennis. So I think our listeners would be super curious to hear, do you regret not going for tennis, or have you revisited that avenue, that opportunity at all since then?
Definitely not. I think after I joined dance, I kind of left everything behind and never looked back. But I think, if this was an alternate universe where I was a tennis player, I think I would still appreciate it. You learn a lot of values of sportsmanship and discipline and camaraderie. So unfortunately, I haven't revisited it, but I do love what I do now. So I'm thankful.
I'm interested to hear some of the endeavors that you're working on now. I know that we're fast forwarding a bit, but I'm so interested, because we haven't talked to you in quite some time. So
right.
Talk to us about some of the projects that you're working on now. I was completely blown away when I found out that you had produced and engineered your own album. And Devin and I took the opportunity to listen to it, before, because I think we were just like, whoa, this is such an incredible accomplishment. So talk to us about that, and then also talk to us about your other projects that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to that. I didn't expect so many people to hear it. And honestly, when I created it, and I guess this is kind of folding over why and how I did it. I think in this year, it's been quite a tumultuous and kind of uncertain period of time for us as a humanity. And I remember feeling certain ways about the pandemic and, the Black Lives Matter movement and the assaults that were happening in the community. And, although I did want to create and spread a positive message, I also want to just say through sound, through sonic value, how I felt. And a lot of these tracks were very dear to me in figuring out that voice. So I think, in that producing period, I'd produced previously in my earlier years of college, and 2011, I think. And I didn't get to revisit music production until this past year. And I was feeling like I was going through school because I was looking up YouTube tutorials on things I forgot and, terminology, and just as a producer and as an engineer, it's very mathematical and philosophical as much as any other art form, really. So yeah, it was quite a process. And with all the other projects, I mean, I have First Floor. For those of you who don't know, it's my movement coaching program. It's less of I'm going to give you private lessons online or in person type of program, and it's more of it's a self-explorative engine that allows people to just understand who they are through movement and through meditation and through mindfulness. And that's one of my pride and joys, because it's kind of like I take my lifestyle, I try to meditate every day and, move with my meditation. And then I kind of like package that and put it in this program for people to try out and, hopefully get something new from it. And then in addition to that, outer class, my third pride and joy, I feel like my team that I've been developing over, it's been 2.5 years now. And it's just a group, a collective of very unique individuals who I feel like you wouldn't normally suspect to be together. It's almost like the Suicide Squad for dance, because they all have such unique quirks and abilities and senses of humor and intellect. And I think that was one of my dreams growing up, is to just have this collective of people who, maybe kind of feel like the black sheep in their family or their society, and, make them feel welcome and united with people who are like them. So that's pretty much what I have going on right now.
I have so much that I want to ask you about, like so very many questions, so many things to unpack from what you just said. But to touch on the last point that you said, bringing together people who feel maybe outcasted or like a black sheep. Have you ever felt like that in your life?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, as I've mentioned, before I joined dance, I was kind of like the quiet kid, the shy kid, and almost just a very like odd and obscure kid. I would have like the weirdest thoughts, and I would like study science and like play in the backyard by myself and like talk to myself. And I think that like transcended time, because I always felt weird. I always felt left out. I always felt outcasted and not intentionally ostracized. But I think coming from someone who's a little neurotic like me, I'm like, oh, maybe they don't like me, or maybe, I'm just super weird. And that like transcended through like high school and even like bits and pieces of college as well. So I think to this day, like I consider myself just odd.
I don't want to go too far off track, because like Devin said, there's so many questions that I want to ask specifically about your projects, but I'm so interested in hearing your thoughts on, you just called yourself neurotic. How does that affect dance and the way that you move? Because, dance is really not restrictive. But as someone, I suffer from being neurotic. My sister knows, I have a little bit of OCD with certain things, the way that I handle life. And so I'm interested to see how that kind of plays into choreographing or directing a team, and how that affects you as a dancer.
Yeah. I think specifically, I think all people who create have this neurosis about them. It's like a dichotomy of like right and wrong and up and down and front and back, and kind of being like left in the middle, confused almost. And, with life, we don't have all the answers. And I think that's kind of restricting, and it feels very confining. But at the end of the day, you kind of create those answers for yourself. So I think in dance, my essential philosophy of how that works and how that kind of collaborates with my artistry in tandem is I'm always asking questions. I think as someone who is quote unquote neurotic, I'm always, asking myself like, am I doing this right? Or do people think like this is weird? Or do you think people think that, whatever the thoughts are, I think there is a commonality between like finding myself and using an art form to just express those questions, even though I haven't found the answers quite yet.
I think that's really important for everyone to hear, because as creatives, like you said, there's a desire for an end result, but we might not get the answers that we're looking for with that particular project, but it's important to keep pursuing, keep exploring, keep researching. And that's part of the fun, really, once you take a step
Absolutely.
back and accept what comes your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Fully agree.
Yeah. So, okay, let's take it back a little bit, Mitch, because you talked about your first floor movement, and how you've sort of integrated kind of the things that you do in daily practice. I'm interested to see what is a day like for Mitch, especially during this time of self-quarantine, stay at home orders, especially now that we're falling into a more restrictive tier. What's a day in the life of Mitch's life?
Yeah, definitely. I think first and foremost, it's just maintaining the discipline of like trying to get up early. I try to get up as early as 6. I think my goal is like 5 or 5:30, which is still kind of late for some people, surprisingly. But I try to wake up at that time just because I feel like since most people aren't really awake, it gives me kind of that introspective space to just listen to silence and to stay mindful of the things around me, to really sit and listen to my body and listen to my thoughts and curate my thoughts almost. So that's a big part of the day, and that's kind of like in tandem with like my meditative schedule. And I always have to have something like creative in there. I think it's almost sequential how it happens, from like the point I get up to when I'm out the door. There's always a point of me just kind of moving, maybe, or like improvising or freestyling or writing down a thought. And I try not to journal. Like, I'm not like, well, last night, I had this crazy dream. It's more of, I like to be as, kind of figurative and metaphorical as I can, because I like to look back at those thoughts and be like, oh, so that's what I was thinking earlier today. So there has to be something creative. And then, I'm so blessed to be able to work creatively and write creative content. My girlfriend is actually a tattoo artist, and I'm doing all the social media management and assistant work as well, and just producing stuff for her to like build her creative company as well. And so yeah, that's like an everyday. And then with rehearsals and stuff throughout the week, all that prep and all that time, I'm usually just like creating. And that's kind of the life that I wanted to build, is a place where I get to, think critically and make creative decisions and ask questions and, just explore. That's like an everyday thing.
You said you've cultivated a daily routine for yourself where you get to create and really explore different mediums of creating. Talk to us about how you created that space. Was it always like that? And if it wasn't, what were some changes that you had to make so that you could have this ideal daily routine?
Yeah, I will say at the start of things, I think, we all are pretty, we're pretty fast with how we live. We get up, we check our phone. Is there any messages? Do I have any calls, or am I getting ready for something? And if, our schedule calls for it, we're up getting ready, and then we're out the door. And then we're doing, we have that regimen, that steady regimen of just doing, and at the end of the day, it kind of flies by. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, I'm tired. I'm just going to do everything over again. And I know a lot of people relate to that. And I know I do as well in the start. And so I had to just like pause. And that's such an important word for some people, including myself, because sometimes we don't, we feel like we don't have time for that. No, I can't just sit. No, I can't just, listen to myself, or so I think I wanted to just pause, and I wanted to hear myself, and I wanted to just sit and be like, okay, what are things that I'm missing out on? What are things that I'm overlooking? Because with our schedule of doing, we often miss things, whether we forget about them or they're just not present in our mind. That's something I really wanted to do. I wanted to be observational and introspective. And I think doing more research as to how I can do that brought me into that daily regimen.
I relate to so much what you said about having a morning routine and rising early. Devin and I have talked about this endlessly because, both her and I tried to implement a morning routine. We get up early. In fact, actually, Mitch, yesterday, I got up early. I have a routine where I journal, but I also like to listen to music because I feel like it helps kind of get the creative juices flowing. And I was listening to Dystopia while I was doing my morning routine. And I feel like it's now going to become a regular thing because it's great. It's just music, and it's just there's no lyrics. I normally listen to music with lyrics, but just guilty plug. Want to tell you that Dystopia will now probably become part of my morning routine.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But I do have mornings where I am like, no, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this. So I'd love to hear your opinion on advice that you could give to someone who's maybe wanting to implement something where they're getting up early and they're doing meditation and they're, trying to implement some sort of routine in their morning, but are really struggling with having to do it as forming that habit.
Yeah, I think as humans, we are such perfectionists. And so when it comes to a disciplinary practice, I think the immediate thought is whether you do something or not, you're like, am I doing this right? Or like, I don't know, or kind of having like that neurosis again and being like, oh, I missed out today, or I didn't do that today. And then we end up like punishing ourselves. And then that kind of like takes us into a deeper rabbit hole of like doubt and shame if you could ever do it in the first place. So I think number one is just like be patient. Like if you don't get it for, a few days to a week straight, like you have the rest of your life, to continue to implement those things. But I think a more practical advice is I like to write down a schedule the night before. And I like to, add the activity and the time. And if there's any like miscellaneous details that go under that, then I want to make sure that when I wake up in the morning, I'm refreshed with those things. And I guess there's also like a scientific thing about like physically writing things down as well. So if you have like a whiteboard or a notepad, I would just suggest trying to write out a schedule before. And then when you wake up, you kind of know exactly what to do and in what time frame. And then secondly, I think just stay consistent. I think the one thing that creates habit is, I think they say like if you repeat something like 17, 20 times, then you'll somehow form a habit. So I think just try to stay as consistent as possible, but don't, beat yourself up if you're not getting it right away. It's just consistency and patience.
Be patient with the process. Things will come in due time. And speaking on forming habits and the things that you are doing to stay creative and stay inspired, I think a lot of successful people also have a list of things that they don't do, they purposefully avoid. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe one or two things that you just stopped doing because it was taking away the creative energy and that flow state from what you were trying to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I took a little cleanse from social media, and it's not in the. I mean, I think there's some ways that it's in the similar context that people are like, I don't want to do social media anymore, or I'm going to delete my account. I think in my perspective, like there's a lot of things happening right now, and at least in the beginning of when everything was happening, it was hard to like process that as a reality, you know. And I think because my form of like living is like through energy and like sensing energy, and taking and giving. So when I'm like reading things or seeing things on social media that take a lot away from my energy, I often, I don't know, the way I envision it is like I kind of like go into the fetal position and I almost retract myself. And I think as humans, and maybe I could be the only one, but I'm sure I relate to some people out there who kind of have that defense mechanism of like, oh, I don't want to feel hurt, or I just want to feel safe. And that's kind of like a self-soothing mechanism that we have. And so it was a little bit of time that I was off social media. So I made sure to like separate myself. So and then also with that, I stopped like eating certain foods because I knew that chemically speaking, there's a lot of things out there that we're consuming that affect how we think and affect how we feel. It wasn't like a specific diet, but I was just staying away from certain foods so that I can improve my my regimen. But those two things, just staying very present and trying to stay away from like, I don't want to call it negativity, but I mean, you guys kind of get what I'm saying. And then just, trying to improve my health in like the smallest ways. So those things.
That's great. I'm interested to know, Mitch, what were you avoiding? What were you avoiding eating?
It was like greasy foods and like fried foods. And I was actually experimenting with a lot of diets. So I was like trying the keto diet, didn't work out for me. And then I was doing like vegan, and then I was doing like no red meat, and then I was doing no meat at all. So I think my body it's had it, but I'm trying to get on this sweet spot. So it's still kind of like a experimental deal, but I think, right now it's just those top ones that I can think of at the moment. Oh, and I guess reducing the carb load and like the sugar as much as possible. I give in every now and again for enjoyment, feed the soul. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of research that's been done on, how you feel your body and having clarity of the mind, and so I was just interested to hear, kind of what you were doing, because Devin and I have talked about this before. We talk about it pretty regularly, because most successful people have a regimented routine that they follow. They eat a certain way, because they really want that clarity day in and day out so that they can allow the creativeness to come out. So that's really interesting. What's COVID life like for Mitch? How has that affected you in your day to day and what you've been doing?
Yeah. It's a huge question. I feel like, well, one, I think with dance being kind of like a staple of my everyday, it was difficult to know that a lot of studios were closing down and, not being able to teach as much, was devastating for me. And I actually had this like crazy realization, as someone that likes to create and share, especially in the dance sense. I felt like I started to lose like my identity almost. And I kind of came to this conclusion, like, I'm not everything I do. Like who I am is just like, I'm just this. And so that helped me a lot. And it gave me a ton of relief, knowing that I don't have to be doing things to be something. I can just be this. And going along with that, I felt like it was a difficult time. Like, it was losing that for a little bit, and then I was having to move back to San Diego for a little bit, just because I wasn't able to pay for rent up in Orange County, and then and then I lost my car as well. In the midst of that, I was crazy story, but I'll make it short. I had like some kind of mechanical issue with my car, and I've had this car for like 5 years. It's like my baby. Her name was Eleanor, and I had this mechanical issue, and we took it to a family mechanic, and he had it for a month. After that, picked it up. I was stoked. Not even like 15 minutes later, my car started smoking like profusely, not just like, oh yeah, it's overheated. And then before you know it, there's some flames, and I pull over and I hop out. I grab my keys and my phone, and that was it. And then this thing goes up in flames, crazy. And, I hop out of there. People were super kind to stop by and be like, hey, are you good? And then that's kind of been a process as well of just trying to, settle things with insurance and with the bank. So I feel like majority of the things that were experienced in COVID were like, I feel like those were very trying times, because it was me really trying to like latch on to, I feel like let go, actually, now that I think about it, let go of the things that I felt like I was attached to and not realizing it at first. Obviously with me naming my car and being like, yeah, it's my baby. I felt so attached to her, and my attachment to dance and teaching and choreography, and just everything in between. It's just taught me so much to just be, and like be okay with that. And now everything's great. I settled everything, got a new car, and got a new place in Costa Mesa. And, I'm not going to say like life is good. Like things materialistically and financially are better. They've improved. But I think I came out with so much more, and that's just the tendency to just be, and I'm beyond grateful for just that. If it wasn't for anything else, I'm happy to be alive. So that's COVID in a nutshell for me.
I'm so sorry about your car. That's terrible. I like pictured it and everything when you were saying that, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was like one of the craziest things, but I think in those kind of situations when it's like seemingly overwhelming, I kind of just laugh at it. Not like, I don't know. I'm kind of like, dang, that's crazy. I think a lot of people would have like a more gut wrenching reaction, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. I think internally I was feeling it, but the way I reacted, I remember just like standing there and like watching it happen. And I was like, dang, that's nuts. And I like laughed at it. And sometimes that's all you can really do. That's all you can really do is just acknowledge the moment, and don't look, don't look behind yourself, or don't look in front of yourself and, like try to figure it out right away. Just like, be like, all right, that's kind of like the nature of the ebbs and flows, with life. You just got to be present for it. So
I think it's really powerful what you said about how COVID, although a trying time, it was a time of realization to actually let some things go. I think far too often we become codependent on things and not realize that we're depending so much on these things. And I think allowing yourself to let them go and not be so closely identified with them, I think is really powerful. I think COVID has been really hard and trying for people, but I think you went the other way. A lot of people, as you were describing earlier, maybe just kind of go into a fetal position and kind of just panic, right? Because
Right.
it feels like a dark time. It feels like such a challenging and trying time, but you sort of went the other way and said, okay, yes, this is trying, right? But I got to let these things go. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I do have to admit, like, even in the times that I wasn't feeling enlightened or elated or positive, I had my human moments of just pain and hurt and feeling scared, or having that uncertainty hit you very, very deeply and strike you so aggressively. So I think that's one thing that if I could just tell anybody, it's just like, be okay with that. I think generally speaking, we know we're all hurting. We know we're all experiencing all those emotions, but like at the end of the day, like we're going to get through it because we're all in it together. It's not like, I think I had this, that feeling. I don't know if it's just like that defense mechanism, but I was like, man, I wonder if anyone's like feeling this. And if not, like, dang, I feel like I'm the only one. So I guess that's just something I wanted to say to hopefully whoever was listening, just knowing that you're not alone. We're all feeling it, and even the best of us. So that's that.
Especially during this time. I mean, originally we started this podcast so that we could collaborate with some of our favorite people and kind of dive into the creative process of being a dancer, but also exploring other avenues. So I think what you said just there, like, remember, you are not alone. Like, we're here. I know that you're listening to this either through your phone or through your computer screen, but we're here, and we want you to remember that,
Yes.
you're not alone.
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm feeling a little guilty, Mitch, because we're having this conversation with you, and it's been so long. Like, we let so much time pass since we
Right.
last spoke with you, and you've done so much since then. But something that I'm getting out of this conversation, something that I'm being reminded of, is that you're so very intentional. Like, everything about what you've talked about so far, describing like your daily routine, even the way that you speak is so intentional. And I'm reminded of the way that you dance. It's very distinctive, very intentional. It's almost like there's no excess movement. There's no like fluff. It's very, very to the point and so succinct. So I want to hear a little bit about how you feel your dance style is. I mean, I'm sharing how I feel when I see you dance, but what do you think your dance style is? And how can dancers who are maybe just trying to figure out like their voice or their style, what advice or words of encouragement would you give to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to start off, like I said, I felt so, I don't know, I felt like everything that I was feeling and thinking as, an adolescent till now, in adulthood, I feel like those things kind of remained a part of me as I grew up. And so I think dance for me was, again, like answering those questions, and not in a cataloged or a pre-registered way, like, yeah, just keep your head up, or just, keep going. While those are all great pieces of advice, I was okay with just answering it myself. And again, the way I dance, and I guess if you could put like a label or a style on it, it's really just exploration, in like the most physical and also non-physical way that I can express that. And really what dance is, I think, when we've put ourselves in the position to, put a style or put a stamp on what we do, like I'm a popper or I'm a crumper or I'm a swaggy dancer, or I'm I think as much as it helps from other people's standpoint as a viewer or a consumer, I think it limits the self. And so I tried to stop doing that and be like, what if, this piece that I'm going to make is more aggressive and it's more hype? And what if this is just slow? And what if this is just me, choreographing to train sounds, going by? In anything I do stylistically, I try to, one, incorporate the things that I've learned over time, whether that's like a style or a way of choreography. And then I just try to like mesh all of that together and just like live it out and like let my body do the speaking, and let it communicate. And I think that's essentially what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to communicate. I'm always trying to talk. And I don't know if I can put a style on it, but it's just movement. I don't know. It's hard to say. I am rooted in hip hop, but I think trying to innovate within and out of hip hop has kind of been my way of exploration. And for someone that's like trying to, I think your question was get into a certain style or like find their style. Yeah. I think this is something important that I wish I learned earlier on is you don't have to be anything. And it's simple, but it's so effective and it's helped me in so many ways. But what I would say to dancers who are just trying to find their way, I think first and foremost, find what you like, not what's appropriate or not what's socially accepted, because you'll find yourself not enjoying it most of the time. And whether you do enjoy something or not, I think is solely a you decision. It's a very personal decision. So yeah, just find what you like and explore that. And once your curiosity sparks somewhere else, like follow that. You don't always have to stick to one thing sometimes. And just find your voice through that, like what you like as a person. So that's all I can say about that.
That's great advice. I love that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the dance goals that you provided to us as we were prepping for the episode. The first and foremost, you said you wanted to inspire the generation after you to use dance as a positive, thoughtful, and enriching art form. I think we can pretty much check that off the list because I feel like you are truly an inspiration to the youth and the generations to come. I think your name will be remembered in dance. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. That's crazy. I appreciate that.
Some of the other goals that you put were background dance for your favorite musical artist. So who would that be?
For a long time, it was Justin Timberlake. Hands down. I love the fact that, he was kind of like a modern king of pop outside of Michael Jackson. He was a white dude who had funk. And I thought that was really cool that he like stepped outside of the stereotype. And so I wanted to, not just dance for him or create for him because I loved his work, but it was just because of that. Like I really stood for that. And who else was it? I wanted to dance for Usher at some point. That's self-explanatory. But yeah, I think those are the tops, honestly. And maybe honestly, like if we could go back, like I don't know if Prince would have had dancers, like if he was still here, like that would be so sick. And I don't know, like I don't know, anywhere that draws the funk out of someone, I'm super down for it. But those are probably like the top.
Those are great answers. I would definitely go and see you choreograph or dance for them. Those are some great artists for sure.
They sure are, yeah.
The last goal that you put is you want to build a successful dance company to leave a legacy. Is that something that you're working on currently, with your projects, or is that something that you want to do well into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think writing that down was just kind of like a encapsulating thought. But I think what I meant by that is like, I want to just try and do everything I can to just bring passion and bring excellence. And people really see how much you care about something based off of what you put out. I often, like refer to Kobe for those kind of answers, because it wasn't that he was just talented. He was super compassionate about what he did. And I think that although he had worked hard for that, he had just created a legacy just by being compassionate. And so for me, in any project that I pursue, whether it's my current ones or a bunch of things that are in my lane or completely left field, I want to do it with as much compassion and, excellence as I can, making sure nothing is left undone. And I think that to me is leaving a legacy, showing someone or people you care about, people who maybe follow you or look up to you, and just how to care for something. Because once you care deeply about something, you're willing to put in the effort, you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to pay the price just to make the best out of something. And so that's kind of my explanation for the statement of leaving a legacy, is just teaching people how to care about something. So yeah, that's that.
I love that.
It's so good. It's so, so good. I feel like, we were talking about dance specific goals, but that's a goal for just life, being the most excellent human being that anyone possibly can be.
Yeah, I mean, MLK said it. He was like, just be excellent. Like, if I'm a janitor, I'm going to be like the best janitor ever, and not to, add superiority to it. I think being the best is being your best. And yeah, just do it to the best that you can. And I think people will catch on to that. And you'll surprise yourself in the process too.
For sure. I'm so sorry to our listeners because this might seem like a little bit jumbled, but I do want to circle back to talking about Dystopia, because I was listening to it this morning, and one of my favorite tracks is Clairvoyance. Just something about that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, something about that track. It just like, as soon as it played, I was like, yep, this is the one. Like, not even like finishing the track or anything. Like the first, like, I think it was like 10, 15 seconds. I'm like, yep.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite. So I want to hear from you. What is your favorite track? And also, like, what's your next plan for, or what are some of your goals around music production? Will there be a Dystopia 2? I don't know, teasing it for the new year.
Yeah. Oh man. I think first and foremost, dang, I'm like so gassed up right now by what you said. But yeah, I think in terms of like my favorite works, it's interesting you say that, because I remember working on the project for a while and like listening to things. I mean, as a producer, you kind of have to like review things over and over, and check for any errors or mistakes or things you could add. And that was the one track, I tell people this all the time, was the one track that I had the hardest time with. And the reason why is because in the production of just the drums, it's pretty intricate as it sounds. And when you have intricate things in music, and I think in terms of quality with everything, simpler is better. But there was something about the track that I really wanted to elevate, and it probably took me the longest out of all of them. And then crazy enough, like I showed up, to rehearsal. My team had been doing Zoom rehearsals for, I think, like 4 or 5 months. And then the one time I show up to rehearsal was like a week after I released the album. And like, dude, clairvoyance though, like I would get all these texts like on that one song. And I'm like, yo, that's so crazy that you guys like that, because I felt like I struggled with that the most. But again, reverting back to what I was saying, like I just cared about that song. And amongst all of the other songs, like if something was going on that didn't feel right to me, like I wanted to like give it my best. But thank you for saying that. Let's see, plans for music. There is going to be a side B. I will say that. It's definitely different. It's so funny because I feel like I normally am so secretive about that stuff because I like the surprise, but you guys, you guys have been there for me, so I'm willing to give you those details. It's like we're having just a conversation. It's not a podcast, it's a conversation. So I'm gonna dish out those details. Side B, yes, side B.
Well, and we can totally edit that out too if you don't want the listeners to know.
Oh no, you can totally keep it. I'm totally okay with it.
That's awesome.
I'm just glad. I'm glad that you guys are. I'm thrilled you guys are asking about that, because that's crazy awesome. In terms of like other projects with music, I just want to keep going with it and pursue it as long as I can and work with other people. I think that's a big goal of mine, and it's always going to be there, I think.
Have you choreographed or danced to your own music?
It's funny. I'm going to shout this guy out. You guys know him, Christian Lumba. If you're listening to this, this is our thing. We always used to joke around about like making our own music and choreographing to it. But personally, for me, I have not yet. And hopefully in the nearest future, I can pursue that. But it hasn't been a thing yet. I don't know why.
It's coming soon. Well, and what I'm hearing is there might be a possible collab with Lumba and Mitch coming out with like some music 2021, 2022.
Put it out there in the universe, because it's got to happen. I really hope he's listening to this. It'd be so awesome. Lumba, you know where to find me.
We'll send him this clip specifically.
Yes, please. Yes, please do that.
Well, let's go ahead and transition. This is, my personal favorite part of the episode. It gives our listeners a chance to know just some random facts about you. I'm going to set a timer for about 45 seconds, and Devin is going to go through a list of questions. They're intended to be quick, so just the first thing that comes to mind, and we'll get through as many as possible. So,
dang. Okay, I'm going to try my best. Let's do this.
All right, Dev, I'm ready. Are you?
Yes. Yeah, I'm
ready. Okay, perfect. All right, set, go.
Solo or with a team?
Team.
Student or teacher?
Student.
Favorite song right now?
I had it. Same Effect by Benny. She just released it.
What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
I had water and a bagel.
If you could write a book, what would it be about?
I am writing a book, and it's just about movement and how to find yourself in movement. That's it.
That's awesome. If you could choose to be one age for the rest of your life, what age would you be?
You know what? I really want to be like 12, because that's an awesome age.
Time. That's amazing. Time. I want to dive into more. Why 12? I know you said it's an awesome age, but is there something specific in your life that draws you to that age?
I think anybody can relate to this, but it's just nostalgia. I think specifically for me, it was just like the adolescence of just like not really caring and going outside and riding bikes and riding skateboards and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And yeah, it's just like such a simple time, you know? That's the only reason I can't like specify anything really.
I'm going to ask a less pensive question, but for the novelty of it, what do you like to put on your bagel?
I mean, I like cream cheese. Like, I think that's pretty standard. I'm not really like, I'm not really exotic with bagels. I like to try different ones, but there's nothing like a strawberry, you know, an herb cream cheese. Like I mean, I would be down to try it, but at this point, I'm pretty basic with bagels. So, sorry.
You don't have to give anything away if you don't want to, but you know, I'm surprised, but also not surprised that you're in the process of writing a book. How do you write a book about movement?
Yeah, I think honestly, that's one of the questions I asked myself writing it. Um, there, there is a set of questions that I had written down, you know, prior to the start of embarking this, and you know, one of those questions being, how do you write a book about movement? How do you write a book about dance? And I think what it really is, if I can simplify all of that, it's like regurgitating just everything you know and everything you feel about movement, mixed with you know, there's a lot of like science in there. I studied, and I won't say study as like an academic declaration, but it's more of like an independent study and curiosity of this thing called flow state. And essentially what that is, it's just a place that you feel mentally, psychologically, and almost emotionally, where you're thinking critically and you're recognizing patterns and you're in the pocket. And that's definitely something as I think all artists can relate to, because when you're having conversation with somebody, you're like, dang, we're like in the pocket. Like we're just like bouncing off each other, or when people are freestyling, or when musicians are playing music, when an athlete is like in the zone and they're about to score that touchdown, like there's that state of flow and that very calm space where you just feel and perform your best. And so things like that, like the scientific, is definitely something that I again am interested in and want to add in there to kind of support as evidence to all of the theories and philosophies that I discuss in that book. But that's the gist of it.
If you don't want to give it away, you know, we respect that. But what's your projected timeline for releasing this book?
Ooh. Yeah.
Because we want to pre-order it.
Well, I think it just kind of reminds me, it just reminds me to like keep adding, because I'm like half and half with certain things. I love due dates, and I love to set, you know, January or March 2021. I think that helps me attach to it and focus on it. So thank you for that reminder. But I don't think I have a due date for it yet. And I think that's where maybe it goes wrong, is I'm like, I kind of almost treat it as a journal, but I think I'm pretty deep into it. And so I could honestly say, hopefully early next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll see. Prayers up.
That's awesome. Well, and I love what you said about, you know, kind of being half and half with due dates. You know, Devin and I, when we were first formulating the idea for the podcast, I mean, we were like, okay, it's going to be released at this point in time. And then 5 months later, it was like, not sure, let's push back our due date. But I think that giving yourself the allowance to have time and be flexible with it, so that you can be happy with what you're actually putting out, I think is, there's really something of value there. So I totally respect kind of being half and half on the date. And we're certainly not going to force you to commit to 2021, but I echo what Devin said. We definitely want dibs on our first pre-orders of that book.
Oh yeah, you got it. Absolutely. Trust.
At the time that we're airing this episode, we will be well into the new year, which is pretty exciting. So I know earlier we talked about some of your dance goals and where you would like to take, your future creative projects, but are there any other goals that you have going into 2021?
Yeah, I mean, this upcoming release that I have going for First Floor has kind of been under wraps for the past few months. And so that's something I'm looking forward to in January, more specifically. Just because the people that have experienced First Floor have gotten a very particular curriculum, and it's mixed with some custom implementations. But I think this new shade of First Floor is hopefully going to be intriguing to people enough for them to try. But that's something I'm really looking forward to. And then just future tense, I want to be able to create more opportunities to create with other people and collaborate. And, I've been chatting with a few people and seeing what we could do as far as like concept and, even just like to the simple, like, hey, let's just talk on Zoom, or like, let's just call it, let's FaceTime. I'm looking forward to that. And Outer Class has a lot going for us. We're thinking of releasing a series of videos. We're working on one right now and a few others. So it's just going to be another year of exploration and creativity. So I'm just looking forward to how that's going to feel. I think there's an exhilaration there.
That's amazing. I got goosebumps as you were talking about that. I think given the trying year that we've had, we've faced a lot of obstacles and challenges, particularly in the dance community. I would love your opinion on what's good in the dance community right now. Let's highlight something positive that's happening. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I will say, I mean, I think with given the year and the space that we've all absorbed, it's been quite a time and probably one that hopefully we don't face again. But amongst all the uncertainty and all the the pain and the hurt and the almost growing pain of this year, I think everybody's been so supportive. And that's huge because I think we're in a space now where people haven't been there for each other as much as they are now. I feel like it's a very passing thought. Like, oh yeah, man, I support you. Like, you're doing great. Or like commenting on people's videos and like liking their stuff. But I think people are taking more of the time to like post about other people and like speak highly of them and encourage them or message them or DM them on social media or text them and reach out just to like check and see how people are doing. I found that to be so heartwarming and so gratifying. So aside from like the dance stuff, I always like to highlight the human stuff because that's what creates, dance or whatever art form that we're a part of. But that's probably the one thing that's really good right now is that everyone's supporting each other.
For all of our listeners, we're going to have a very special impromptu challenge for this episode, and that's to just go check up on someone that you haven't talked to in a while. Send them a text message, even better, call them up, and if they don't answer, leave them a voicemail and just let them know that you're thinking of them.
Absolutely. Love that.
Where can people find you, Mitch? Where can people find the great work that you do?
Well, I do have Instagram. So that handle is at Mitch VRL, MITCH VRL. And then I also have all the accounts in the bio with First Floor and all my other creative endeavors. So if you have any other questions, just reach out.
Thank you so much. Before we officially wrap it up, I'll hand it over to Devin, but just on a personal note, when we were prepping for the episode and you sent over your bio, I just couldn't believe how much you've accomplished in such a short amount of time. And, I've always known you on a personal level and have followed you, but seeing everything in writing really just kind of blew me away. I'm so impressed by you, not just as a dancer, but as a creator and a human being. And I feel so privileged to know you. And I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for sharing your insights with us today. It has truly been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. The feeling is mutual, seriously, for both of you to come to this place together as a collective and a partnership to create a podcast where people just talk. That's incredible. And it's so stellar that you guys did it in a time like this where people are just looking to learn and people need insight and we all need guidance. I know I'm going to be listening in the future episodes, and just with everything you guys have done and been, especially with you guys' studio before, and like you guys are such go-getters, and I think that is so inspirational for me. So just keep inspiring and keep living, the best life. You guys are huge examples. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I feel like we're going to get caught in a circle of thank yous, but I just, I'm having flashbacks to the studio. And I remember you had asked to use the studio to film a concept video. And I remember feeling like really nervous because I had to record like the intro or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's going to be up to Mitch's standards.
Oh my gosh.
But just like from the very beginning, we've always been so impressed with what you put out as a creative, just like a creator. And so to, like Michelle said, to see all of your creative endeavors since then gives me so much hope. And I feel like it's going to give our listeners so much to look forward to in the new year. And we need that. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys have been so amazing with just how you coordinate and write everything. Like you guys really pay attention as much as you comment that I'm intentional. I feel like it takes one to know one. So you guys have been very well prepared and just super detailed and well oriented with what you do. So thanks for the experience. This is super fun.
Thank you. And okay, so let's have a commitment right now from you, Mitch. I'm going to put you on the spot. When you're getting ready to release Side B, we want you on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
We also want
I'm here.
You back for your book release.
Yeah, I'm here. Anytime, just be like, hey, we want to do a podcast with you, or hey, we want to chat with you. Hey, every little thing that comes out. I like post a story. They're like, hey, we want to chat with you. What is this? It's like, I'm just going to the bathroom in this story. I'm just kidding. But yeah, seriously, anytime, like I'm always here for the conversation and the connection. And it's so good. So very good to see you guys. It like, like I said about like being 12, I think I had this attachment to nostalgia, and you guys remind me of like my journey and how far I've come. And thank you just for being the people you are, and a symbol of just hope for me and confidence. I appreciate it.
Please don't bring your friends.
Thank you so much for listening to the Collab podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please show your support by leaving a review on iTunes.
And be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcast.
The conversation continues over on Instagram and YouTube with highlights from today's episode.
When you on the way, make that move. Can't stay dead, no, that's my boo. Yeah, that's boo.